Welcome to Casual Leaves. I am kind of speechless because last 4 weeks have been really difficult for all my plans, and I've made a lot of arrangements. I'm trying to control the situation, but I'm having a massive root rot thing going on, and about 8 of my plants got root rot, and I have been repotting them, changing their soil, trying to figure out what's going on. But a lot of them have taken a beating, and I've had to take some drastic measures immediately to course correct things. And I had to read a lot about root rot, whether it is contagious, which by the way it is. I was so surprised to find that out. Apparently it travels from plant to plant, from spores and pathogens and even fungus gnats, which of course are always there. Luckily not so many for me, just maybe 1 or 2, so not really counting that. But I think I overwatered, at times really underwatered, and definitely overfed my plants, which maybe led to this situation, along with a very important factor, which is the climate right now, which is the heat and the dryness and the delay of the monsoon. For the longest time I thought I'm going to wait for the monsoon to arrive, but I didn't want to take that risk because I've had really bad damage. So here's a little series of me trying to control some of my plants, trying to save them. I've lost many during this whole time, but I'm hoping certain changes will help. So let's see what we have today. Also, an FYI, this is the editing me from the future. I have done some corrections, and the rest of the video is gonna be diving back into the last few days. And yeah, I just thought I'd mention that, for it may cause confusions. So I think I'm having some issues with my Alocasia cuprea red secret. The leaves have just been falling down, and the stalk seems very fragile for some reason. So I have a feeling that I need to look into the soil, and I really can't wait for this. It's been a couple of weeks and it's not doing anything. That's the other sign. It's just not behaving healthy. So I'm just gonna check the soil and maybe even change it to the aeroid soil I have recently ordered. So I guess I was right. Something seems off. The roots have rotted. I can see pieces of root in here. Yeah, the roots and the soil aren't that great. So I'm just gonna wash this off now. So this is what we're working with right now. I'm just so glad I noticed the signs and I decided to check on the roots. Definitely it's lost a lot of roots, the stem, and a lot of growth. But I'm so happy how well the leaves look still. Like they've got this most brilliant copper color. It's a bit not visible in this white light I'm in right now, but if you could see it in real, and maybe I'll try and show it in the daytime, it looks beautiful. I think I should be able to save it. It's decent right now, and I'm gonna use a new aeroid mix I have, and I'm gonna pour it up. So in light of all my plants going a bit bad because of the soil issue and the root issue, I'm deciding I want to change the soil of my philodendron micans. Anyway, it's about time I took it off this little pot I had put it in. It's developed quite a lot, and I see that the leaves aren't really becoming big in size. In fact, I've been getting really tiny leaves. There's good growth, but I think it's time I need to shift it and not take a chance with the soil as well. What I've done is I've taken my aeroid mix, I've added some my regular soil and cocoa peat soil. So that's what I'm gonna mix, and my intercom is ringing, so I'll just be back. So just mixing the three soils, my aeroid, which is 3 parts, 1 part of regular soil and 1 part of cocoa peat. I'm experimenting with this, so let's see. So I'm glad the roots here are fine. They are actually pretty decent. They're healthy, they're white in color, so I'm happy I got it out in the right time. They were getting stuck around in the pot, but I think it was a perfect time for me to remove this. There's one vine here with not so great roots actually, and there are 2 here. These are still decent, so I think this was a good decision. This broke off. This was the healthy root I'd seen, and this broke off. I don't know how I did that, but it happened. Next on my chores list is to repot my Monstera Peru. I had consciously put it in this plastic container because it was a single leaf plant cutting that I had, and I really wanted it to have a stable, sturdy pot where it didn't risk running loose with the soil and things like that. So I had put this in a plastic container. Eventually it grew leaves, and I put in a little moss pole stick to give it support. But right now I think it has suddenly stopped growing in a way that the leaf sizes have gone small. It's growing a little slowly, and before the leaf matures, a new leaf is trying to come, but it gets slowed down again and kind of maturing that leaf. So I thought it's the right time for me to repot this and change the soil and check the roots, considering what I've been facing with all my plants. Luckily, the roots seemed okay. There are not too many roots as I expected, but they are still healthy roots, so that's a good sign. I've decided to use my aeroid soil mix for most of my plants now. After facing the root rot situation with so many plants, I rather take risk with this new aeroid mix and see if that works. I did try mixing a bit of the old soil with it to not shock the plant too much. I'm also retaining my moss pole stick and keeping the whole thing a little snug so that it remains root bound, gets root bound rather, because that seems to be what these plants like. Next, I'm also gonna repot my philodendron burley marks. This is the only plant which has been really rough and tough and rugged and been doing really well from the beginning. I am so happy with the amount of leaves this plant has grown, and that too in this glass vase, which honestly didn't have a drainage hole and possibly even the right soil, because this was one of the first plants I potted when I started my whole journey with plants. And I'm so happy that it has the maximum number of roots and healthy roots, and it is a bit root bound, which is what I wanted it to be. So I'm really happy, but it's about time I give it a new pot and a new soil because it totally deserves that. I'm also finally giving it a pot which has drainage holes. I deprived it of it for the longest time. I think it's been a year roughly, maybe a bit less than a year, but it totally deserves a new home. And I think it's really happy now. We'll notice some changes very soon, I'm sure. And yeah, both of these plants have started a new journey now, and this is a good timeline for me to mark their progress. Next, I have my Syndapsis pictus exotica. I had reported this not quite long ago, in fact, quite recently, and I had added a moss pole stick to it so that it gets support and it gets big leaves. But suddenly, one of the vines got really limp and a lot of leaves started curling, and I decided to remove the moss pole, but I couldn't find anything, so I let it be for a day. But then it was kind of getting to me that something is wrong, so tonight I have decided to just check on it. I don't know, suddenly I've seen a drastic change in the plant, so I thought it's best that I take a risk and check the roots. And I was kind of right. There is root rot again. I don't know what's the issue. It could probably be my soil, I'm guessing. Or maybe I've overfed my plants. I've done that recently. I think I've given them a bit too much of the fertilizer, the NPK fertilizer. And anyway, there is complete root rot here. There are no roots on some of the stems, which I'm gonna use as an opportunity. I'm just gonna chop and prop the nodes and whatever is left of it, which are essentially two stems which do have some roots in them. I'm gonna put them in the new aeroid soil mix and hope for the best. And for the limp ones, the ones with no life in them, I'm gonna chop and prop them in water and see what is the best case scenario. So that's how the whole setup is looking. I'm using my test tube propagation center to propagate my cuttings in water, and the other plant has been put in the new aeroid soil mix, and there was a little stick which also I've tried inserting into it. So let's see and hope for the best. I'm happy I took this action rather than it just hanging in there and waiting for it to do better. I'm happy I decided to do this tonight. Then we come on to my alocasia mycolidziana, which has certainly started drying off and getting wrinkly. The leaf size have gone smaller, so I have removed it from the pot and I've cleaned up the roots. Again, it was in that old soil mix, so I've changed that. I'm changing that now. I have cleaned the roots, removed the old stuff from it, and this is what it had. It had so many broken roots, but luckily I think it was done at the right time. It looks fine, and now it's in my new aeroid mix, and look how fluffy and light it is. I'm happy I did this. So this is what is left of my philodendron Congo rojo. It suddenly started dropping leaves and I decided to inspect it, and this is what I found. The sellers are for some reason wrapping the roots in this paper wrap, which is restricting the roots and creating a root rot kind of a situation and killing the plants. This is the second or third plant where I faced this. Anyway, I decided to clean up the roots. I've washed it off and I'm left with one leaf and one new shoot of a leaf. So I'm hoping that this could be saved. I'm utterly sad because this was a gift and this was a really big plant with many big leaves, and I was hoping that I would have a really lush, big bushy plant, but anyway, right now I've just tried to restore it in a leca container and hoping it makes through. Thank you for joining me and being there as I take this whole journey into summers and getting into monsoon, and honestly dealing with the loss of these plants. It's been so difficult. I've been feeling so depressed and so sad. It's almost like plants are like pets and you don't like losing them, and apart from the fact that they are expensive and you've invested emotionally so much in them, so I'm gonna keep updating. I will try and do a June updates where I can capture whether these corrective measures could actually lead to anything, so that we can all be prepared next time something like this happens and know what is to be done. If I knew a lot of these things before, I would have been prepared for them, but honestly for this area, for this climate, possibly the information wasn't there. So we are learning as we're going through this, and that's all. See you next time. Bye.